someone knew exactly what they were doing.
The key didn't turn. Henry Kavanaugh stared at his own front door, briefcase in one hand, key ring in the other. 23 years he'd been walking through this door. Same brass deadbolt he'd installed himself when they bought the house. Same key he'd cut on his own machine at the shop. The key didn't turn because someone had changed the locks. He set down his briefcase and tried again, slower this time. The key slid in perfectly, but stopped at the turn. A professional job. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. Henry walked around to the back porch. The kitchen door opened with a soft click. Dana hadn't changed this one yet. "Dana?" he called out. No answer. Her car wasn't in the driveway, but that didn't mean anything. She'd been taking different routes lately, parking in strange places. Said it was for security after some break-ins downtown. Henry moved through the kitchen, noting the small changes. New coffee maker, expensive one. The old bills were gone from the counter where he usually sorted them. Everything looked cleaner, more organized, like someone was preparing for something. The landline blinked with 3 messages. He pressed play. Mr. Kavanaugh, this is Janet from Pacific Coast Bank. We need to discuss some recent activity on your joint account. Please call us at your earliest convenience. Delete. Henry, it's your cousin June. Call me when you get this. It's important. Delete. This message is for Dana Kavanaugh regarding your application for personal credit. Your references have been contacted and we'll have a decision by Friday. Henry stopped. Dana hadn't mentioned applying for credit. He walked upstairs to their bedroom. Dana's side of the closet was fuller than usual. New clothes with tags still on them. A jewelry box he'd never seen before sat on her dresser, containing earrings and a necklace that looked expensive. Very expensive. Henry opened the box and lifted the necklace. Real diamonds, unless he was mistaken. The kind of thing that cost more than he made in 3 months at the locksmith shop. His phone buzzed with a text from Dana. Working late again. Don't wait up. The same message she'd been sending 3 nights a week for the past 2 months. Henry sat on the edge of the bed and called June. Finally, June said without preamble. Where have you been? Working. What's so important? We need to talk, not over the phone. Can you meet me at Rusty's in an hour? June, I just got home. I'm tired and... Henry, trust me on this. 1 hour. The line went dead. Rusty's Tavern sat on the edge of the marina, its neon sign flickering in the early evening drizzle. Henry found June at a corner booth, nursing a beer and watching the door like she expected trouble. June Frawley had always been the sharp one in the family. While Henry learned to fix locks and tow cars, she'd gotten her journalism degree and now worked layout at the local paper. She saw things other people missed, remembered details that mattered. Sit down, she said when he approached. Order something. We're going to be here a while. Henry slid into the booth and waved at the bartender. Beer. Whatever's on tap. June waited until the beer arrived before she spoke. I saw Dana last week, Tuesday afternoon. She was coming out of the Ocean View Hotel with a man I didn't recognize. The Ocean View was the nicest hotel in town. The kind of place where rooms cost more per night than most people made in a week. Maybe it was business, Henry said, but the words felt hollow even as he spoke them. Maybe. June pulled out her phone and showed him a photo. Dana and a tall man in an expensive suit walking close together toward a silver BMW. The man's hand was on Dana's lower back in a way that suggested intimacy. Who is he? I did some digging. His name is Nate Risdale. He works at Coastal Properties, same company as Dana. Henry studied the photo. The man looked confident, successful, the kind of guy who wore $1,000 suits and drove cars that cost more than Henry's annual salary. There's more, June said. She pulled up another photo on her phone. This was taken yesterday. Same man, same BMW. This time he was alone, but he was coming out of Henry's bank. Pacific Coast Bank, where Henry and Dana had their joint accounts. He's not a customer there, June said. I checked, but Dana is. And she's been going there a lot lately, sometimes with him. Henry felt something cold settle in his stomach. How long have you been watching? 2 weeks. Ever since I saw them together the first time? June leaned forward. Henry, I think there's something you need to know about your finances. What do you mean? June pulled a folded paper from her purse. I have a friend at the bank. She can't give me specifics. but she said there's been a lot of activity on your accounts lately. Transfers, withdrawals, new signature cards being filed. Henry took the paper. It was a credit report in his name, but he'd never requested it. According to the report, someone had been checking his credit multiple times over the past month. There were also inquiries for new credit cards and a personal loan he'd never applied for. Dana's been signing your name, June said quietly. My friend thinks she's been practicing. The signatures are close, but not perfect. Close enough to fool most people, though. Henry stared at the paper. The room felt like it was spinning slightly, the way it did when he'd been drinking too much. But he'd only had half a beer. There's something else, June said. I followed her yesterday after work. She didn't go home. She went to a house on Maple Street. Nice place, expensive. She had a key. Whose house? According to property records, it belongs to someone named Margaret Talbot. But Margaret Talbot died 6 months ago. The house is supposed to be vacant, pending probate. Henry set down his beer. How do you know all this? Because I'm good at my job, and because I care about you. June reached across the table and touched his hand. Henry, I think Dana is planning something big. And I don't think it's going to end well for you. Henry drove home in a daze, June's words echoing in his mind. The house was still dark when he pulled into the driveway. Dana's car was nowhere to be seen. He let himself in through the kitchen door and went straight to their home office. The filing cabinet where they kept important papers was locked, which was unusual. Dana never locked anything. Henry went to his truck and got his locksmith tools. The filing cabinet lock was cheap, basic. It took him less than 30 seconds to open it. Most of their important documents were gone. Birth certificates, social security cards, the deed to the house, their marriage certificate, all gone. What remained was a collection of papers Henry had never seen before. Bank statements for accounts he didn't know existed. Credit card applications in his name that he'd never filled out. And most disturbing of all, a handwritten note in Dana's handwriting that simply said, after H is gone, deposit, transfer, close. Henry sat in the dark office trying to process what he'd found. His wife of 23 years was planning to disappear. More than that, she was planning to take everything they owned when she did it. His phone buzzed with another text from Dana. Called in sick tomorrow. Staying at Mom's tonight. Need some space to think. Dana's mother lived in Florida. She'd been dead for 3 years. Henry put the papers back exactly as he'd found them and relocked the filing cabinet. Then he went upstairs to the bedroom and began looking more carefully at Dana's things. The new clothes weren't just expensive, they were specific. Professional clothes. Interview clothes. The kind of outfits someone would wear when they were starting a new job in a new place. In the back of Dana's jewelry box, hidden under the velvet lining, Henry found a small key. He'd never seen it before, but he recognized the type. It was a safe deposit box key. Henry went back downstairs and called June. It's midnight, she said when she answered. I need your help, Henry said, and I need it tomorrow. June met him at the locksmith shop the next morning before he opened. Henry made coffee while she looked over the papers he'd found. This is bad, she said finally. Really bad. She's been planning this for months. How long do you think I have? Based on what I'm seeing here, not long. Maybe a week, maybe less. June set down the bank statements. She's been moving money systematically. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. She's being careful not to trigger any automatic alerts. Henry poured coffee for both of them. His hands were steady, which surprised him. He'd expected to be shaking with anger or fear, but instead he felt oddly calm. What do you think I should do? Legally? File for divorce immediately. Freeze the accounts. Get a lawyer. June paused. But you're not asking me what you should do legally, are you? Henry met her eyes. No, I'm not. June was quiet for a long moment. She's going to destroy you if you let her. Take everything you've worked for and disappear. Leave you with nothing but debt and questions. Yes. And you want to stop her? Yes, June nodded slowly. Then we need to be smarter than she is. And we need to be faster. Over the next 3 days, Henry learned things about his wife that made him feel like he'd been married to a stranger. June's contacts at the newspaper helped fill in the gaps. Dana and Nate Risdale had been seeing each other for 8 months. They'd been careful at first, meeting in different towns, using cash for everything. But as time went on, they'd gotten sloppy. hotel receipts charged to Dana's new credit cards, restaurant bills signed with both their names, vacation photos posted to social media accounts Henry hadn't even known existed. The house on Maple Street was just the beginning. According to property records, someone had been buying distressed properties all over the county. Foreclosures, estate sales, anything that could be bought cheap and flipped quickly. The purchases were being made through a shell company called Coastal Investments. Coastal Investments had 3 partners, Nate Risdale, Dana Kavanaugh, and someone named Thomas Kellerman. "Who's Kellerman?" Henry asked when June showed him the incorporation papers. "Dana's lawyer. He's been handling all the legal work." June pulled up Kellerman's website on her laptop. High-end divorce attorney. Specializes in asset protection and complex property transfers. Henry stared at the screen. Kellerman looked young, hungry, the kind of lawyer who would do whatever it took to win as long as the client could pay his fees. "They're not just planning to steal your money," June said. "They're planning to make it legal." That afternoon, Henry went to see his own lawyer. Bill Hartley had been handling Henry's business and personal legal work for 15 years. He was old school, honest, and about as far from Thomas Kellerman as a lawyer could get. "This is a mess," Bill said after reviewing the documents June had gathered. "If even half of this is true, you're looking at financial ruin. Maybe criminal charges." "What kind of criminal charges?" "Fraud, forgery, identity theft. If she's been signing your name to loan documents, that's serious federal stuff." Henry leaned back in his chair. "What are my options?" "File for divorce immediately, emergency motion to freeze all assets, criminal complaint with the district attorney's office." Bill pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "We can have papers filed by tomorrow morning." "And then what happens?" "Then you hope the judge believes you and not her. Problem is, some of these documents have your signature on them. Real signatures, not forgeries." Henry felt his stomach drop. "That's impossible." "Are you sure? Maybe she had you sign something, told you it was for taxes or insurance?" Henry thought back over the past year. Dana had been handling more of their paperwork lately, said she wanted to take some of the burden off him. There had been documents to sign, but she'd always explained what they were for. At least he thought she had. "Even if we can prove fraud," Bill continued, "it's going to take time, months, maybe years. And in the meantime, your assets are frozen. You can't access your money, can't sell the house, can't do anything. So I'm stuck. Legally, yes. Unless," Bill hesitated, "unless what?" "Unless we can prove that she's planning to flee. If we can show the court that there's an immediate risk of her leaving the jurisdiction with marital assets, we might be able to get an emergency restraining order." Henry thought about the clothes in Dana's closet, the safe deposit box key, the house on Maple Street. "I think I can prove that." That evening, Henry did something he'd never done in 23 years of marriage. He went through Dana's personal things systematically and without permission. He found the safe deposit box first. It was at a different bank, one across town where nobody knew him. The box contained $30,000 in cash, along with copies of all their important documents and several pieces of expensive jewelry. There was also a plane ticket. One way to San Diego, departing in 4 days. Only one ticket. Henry photographed everything with his phone, then put it all back exactly as he'd found it. The ticket explained the timeline. Dana was planning to disappear at the end of the week. 4 days to finish whatever she was doing and vanish forever. Henry went home and waited. Dana arrived around 10, looking tired and distracted. "How was your day?" he asked, trying to keep his voice normal. "Fine. Busy." She went straight to the refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of wine. "How was yours?" "Same as always, fixed some locks, towed a car." Dana poured herself a large glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table. She looked like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "Everything okay?" Henry asked. "I've been thinking," she said finally, "about us, about our marriage." Henry sat down across from her. "What about it? We're not the same people we were when we got married. We want different things now." "What do you want?" Dana took a long sip of wine. "I don't know. Something more, I guess. Something different." "Different how?" "Just different." She finished her wine and poured another glass. "Maybe we should talk about taking a break, some time apart to figure things out." Henry nodded like he was considering it. "How long of a break?" "I don't know. A few months, maybe longer. I could stay with my sister in California, think things through. Dana didn't have a sister in California. She didn't have any siblings at all. That might be good, Henry said. When were you thinking of going? Soon. Maybe this weekend. 3 days earlier than the plane ticket. She was moving up her timeline. Okay, Henry said. If that's what you want. Dana looked surprised. Really? You're okay with it? If it's what you need to be happy, then yes. Dana reached across the table and touched his hand. Thank you. I know this isn't easy. Henry looked down at her hand covering his. For just a moment, he remembered why he'd fallen in love with her all those years ago. She'd been different then. Warmer, more genuine. Or maybe she'd just been better at hiding who she really was. I love you, he said, and meant it. Despite everything, despite the betrayal and the lies, he still loved the woman she used to be. I love you too, she said, but her eyes were already somewhere else. The next morning, Henry called in sick to work for the first time in 5 years. Instead of going to the shop, he drove to June's apartment. She's leaving this weekend, he told her. We're out of time. June was already dressed and ready to go. I figured as much. I've been making some calls. She led him to her kitchen table, which was covered with papers, photos, and printouts. I talked to my friend at the bank again, June said. Dana's been making final transfers all week. Big ones. She's consolidating everything into accounts that only she can access. Henry studied the bank records. In the past 5 days, Dana had moved nearly $200,000. Their savings, their retirement accounts, even the equity from their house. How is that possible? Remember those documents Bill thought you might have signed? I think we've found them. June handed him a stack of papers. Power of attorney forms, loan applications, asset transfer agreements, all with your signature. Henry looked through the documents. The signatures were definitely his, but he didn't remember signing any of them. She must have mixed them in with other paperwork, June said. Tax forms, insurance documents, things you'd sign without reading carefully. So it's legal? Technically, yes, unless we can prove fraud or coercion. Henry set down the papers. What about the criminal stuff? The identity theft? Harder to prove. A good lawyer could argue that you gave her permission to handle your finances. June paused. Thomas Kellerman is a very good lawyer. Henry was quiet for a moment. So they win. Not necessarily. June pulled out another stack of papers. I've been doing some digging on our friend Nate Risdale. The papers were financial records, property transfers, and business filings. June had somehow managed to piece together a complete picture of Nate's business dealings over the past year. He's been running a scam, June said, buying distressed properties with other people's money, then flipping them through shell companies. The profits go to offshore accounts. The losses get stuck with the original investors. How much money are we talking about? Conservative estimate, $3 million. Maybe more. Henry whistled softly. That's serious fraud. Federal crime. 10 to 20 years if they catch him. June smiled grimly. The problem is, nobody's caught him yet. He's been very careful to cover his tracks. But you found them. I'm a journalist. It's what I do. June leaned forward. Here's the thing, though. Dana's not just his girlfriend. She's his business partner. She's been helping him identify targets, forge documents, move money around. Henry felt a cold realization settle over him. I'm not just a victim. I'm evidence. Exactly. If Nate's scam gets exposed, Dana goes down with him unless I disappear first. June nodded. Dead men can't testify. The words hung in the air between them. Henry had been thinking of Dana's betrayal as the end of his marriage. He hadn't considered that it might be the end of his life. We need to move fast, June said. Before she realizes how much we know. What do you have in mind? June pulled out her laptop and opened a new document. We're going to beat them at their own game. But first, we need to make sure you survive long enough to see them lose. Henry spent the rest of the day making preparations. He opened new bank accounts at different banks using addresses June provided. He transferred what little money he still controlled into those accounts. He made copies of all the evidence June had gathered and gave them to Bill Hartley, with instructions to mail them to the district attorney if anything happened to him. Most importantly, he installed hidden cameras in his house. If Dana and Nate were planning to make him disappear, Henry wanted evidence of their plans. The cameras were small, wireless, and invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. Henry had learned a lot about security systems in his years as a locksmith. That evening, Dana came home with Chinese takeout and a bottle of champagne. "What's the occasion?" Henry asked. "I wanted to do something nice for our last night together for a while." She kissed him on the cheek. "I know this is hard for you." They ate dinner and drank champagne while Dana talked about her plans for California. She had stories ready about job opportunities and apartments she'd looked at online. She was a good liar. Henry had to give her that. After dinner, Dana went upstairs to pack. Henry cleaned up the kitchen and checked his phone. June had sent him a text. "Everything ready on my end. You?" Henry texted back, "Ready." An hour later, Dana came downstairs with a suitcase. "I thought you weren't leaving until the weekend," Henry said. "Change of plans." "There's an earlier flight I can catch." She set down the suitcase and turned to face him. "Henry, I want you to know that this isn't about you. You're a good man. You deserve better than what I can give you." Henry almost laughed. Even now, even after everything, she was still lying. "I understand," he said instead. Dana kissed him goodbye. It was a soft kiss, gentle and sad, the kind of kiss someone gives when they know they'll never see the other person again. After she left, Henry waited exactly 30 minutes. Then he called June. "She's gone," he said. "Perfect. Phase 2 starts now." Phase 2 began at 6 in the morning with a phone call to the district attorney's office. June had prepared a complete package of evidence documenting Nate Risdale's real estate fraud. Bank records, forged documents, victim statements, everything needed to build a federal case. The package was delivered by courier at 8 a.m. At 8:30, FBI agents raided Nate's office at Coastal Properties. Henry watched the news coverage from June's apartment. Nate was led away in handcuffs while reporters shouted questions about missing investor money and fraudulent property deals. "Think they'll connect him to Dana?" Henry asked. "Eventually, but not today." June changed the channel. "Today is just about destroying his credibility and freezing his assets." Henry's phone rang. It was Dana. "Henry, thank God you answered. Something terrible has happened." "What's wrong?" Henry tried to sound concerned. "It's Nate, my coworker. He's been arrested. The FBI thinks he was running some kind of scam." "That's awful. Are you okay?" "I'm scared, Henry. The FBI might want to talk to me since I work at the same company. What if they think I was involved?" Henry could hear the fear in her voice. She was realizing that her carefully planned escape might not go as smoothly as she'd hoped. "Where are you now?" he asked. "Still in California. I was about to catch my flight home when I saw the news." Another lie. According to June's tracking, Dana was at the San Diego airport, but she'd never booked a return flight. "Maybe you should stay there for a few days," Henry suggested. "Let things settle down." "You think so? It might be safer. If the FBI wants to talk to you, they can do it over the phone." There was a long pause. "You're probably right. I'll call you later, okay?" "Okay. I love you. I love you too." Henry hung up and looked at June. "She's panicking." "Good. Panicked people make mistakes." The first mistake came that afternoon. Dana tried to access one of her offshore accounts and found it frozen. The FBI had moved faster than she'd expected. The second mistake came an hour later when she called Thomas Kellerman from her cell phone. FBI agents were already monitoring his communications as part of the Nate Risdale investigation. By evening, Dana was trapped in San Diego with no money and no way to get home without exposing herself to federal investigators. Henry's phone rang again at 9 p.m. "Henry, I need your help." Dana's voice was tight with stress. "What's wrong?" "I can't get to my bank accounts. I think there's some kind of computer glitch. Can you wire me some money so I can fly home?" Henry pretended to consider it. "How much do you need?" "Just enough for a plane ticket." "Maybe $500. "Of course. I'll send it first thing in the morning." "Can't you do it tonight? Western Union is open 24 hours. "Dana, it's late. I'm tired. Can it wait until morning?" There was a long pause. "Henry, there's something I need to tell you." "What?" "I wasn't completely honest about why I came here." Henry waited. "I've been having an affair with Nate. I came here to think about whether I wanted to leave you for him." The confession was a calculated move. Dana was hoping that by telling Henry part of the truth, she could manipulate him into helping her without revealing the full extent of her betrayal. "I see," Henry said quietly. I'm sorry. I know this hurts you. But I need to come home so we can talk about it properly. You're right. We do need to talk. So you'll send the money? Yes, I'll send it tonight. Henry hung up and smiled. Dana's desperation was making her careless. By confessing to the affair, she'd just given him everything he needed for the divorce proceedings. But Henry had no intention of sending her money. Instead, he called June. Time for phase 3, he said. Phase 3 was the most dangerous part of their plan. It required Dana to come home, which meant she'd be desperate enough to try anything. June had anticipated this. She'd been preparing for weeks. The first part was simple. Henry sent Dana just enough money to fly home, but not enough to disappear again. When she landed at Portland International Airport the next evening, she had less than $50 to her name. Henry was waiting for her at baggage claim. "Thank you for coming," she said, hugging him tightly. "I was so scared." "It's okay. You're home now." They drove home in relative silence. Dana seemed exhausted, defeated. She kept checking her phone, probably trying to contact Nate or Thomas Kellerman. "Any word on when you'll be able to access your accounts?" Henry asked. "Soon, I hope. My bank said it was just a computer error, but they need to verify some transactions first." Another lie. Dana's accounts weren't frozen because of computer errors. They were frozen because the FBI had identified them as part of Nate's money laundering operation. When they got home, Dana went straight upstairs to shower. Henry used the time to make final preparations. He activated the hidden cameras and made sure his phone was recording. Then he called June. "She's here," he said quietly. "Remember, don't confront her directly. Let her reveal herself." "I know. And Henry, be careful. She's got nothing left to lose now." Henry hung up and waited. Dana came downstairs wearing one of her new outfits, the expensive one she'd bought for her new life. She looked beautiful and dangerous. "We need to talk," she said, sitting across from him at the kitchen table. "I know. I want to be completely honest with you. About everything." Henry nodded encouragingly. "Nate and I have been having an affair for 8 months. I thought I loved him. I thought he could give me things you couldn't." "What kind of things?" "Money, status, a different kind of life." Dana looked down at her hands. "I was wrong. He's been using me." Henry leaned forward. "Using you how?"
He convinced me to help him with his business. Said we could make a lot of money together. I helped him with paperwork, moved some money around.
Dana's voice got smaller. "I didn't know it was illegal." "What kind of paperwork?" "Loan applications mostly, some property transfers." Dana met his eyes. "Henry, I may have done something terrible. I may have used your name on some documents without telling you." Henry felt a surge of anger, but he kept his voice calm. "What documents?" "I don't remember exactly. Nate handled most of it. But if the FBI investigates me, they might find your signature on things you didn't authorize." Henry sat back in his chair. Dana was trying to set him up. If investigators found his forged signature on fraudulent documents, she could claim he was the mastermind and she was just following orders. "That's a serious problem," Henry said. "I know. That's why I think we should leave town for a while. Just until this blows over." "Leave town?" "We could go somewhere warm. Maybe Mexico. I have some money saved up." Dana was trying to convince him to flee the country with her. If he agreed, she could claim he was running from his own crimes. If he refused, she'd probably try a different approach. "I don't think running away is the answer," Henry said. Dana's expression hardened slightly. "What do you suggest?" "We should get a lawyer. Figure out exactly what we're dealing with." "I already talked to a lawyer. He said our best option is to leave the country before charges are filed." "What lawyer?" "Someone Nate recommended. Thomas Kellerman." Henry nodded like the name meant nothing to him. "Did he say what kind of charges we might be facing?" "Federal fraud charges. 10 to 20 years in prison." Dana was trying to scare him into running. The problem was, Henry knew she was probably right about the charges. If investigators found his signature on fraudulent documents, he could go to prison even if he was innocent. "Maybe you're right," Henry said. "Maybe we should leave." Dana's face lit up with relief. "Really? When would we go?" "Tonight. Right now, I have cash and fake passports." Henry stared at her. "Fake passports?" Dana realized she'd said too much. "I mean, I have our real passports. We could drive to Canada tonight and fly out from there." Dana, how long have you been planning this? She didn't answer. How long have you been planning to destroy my life and disappear? Dana stood up from the table. Henry, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been stealing from me for months. You forged my signature on fraudulent documents. You cleaned out our bank accounts. And now you want me to run away with you so it looks like I was in on it from the beginning. That's not true, isn't it? Henry pulled out his phone and played a recording. Dana's voice filled the kitchen. After H is gone, deposit, transfer, close. Dana went pale. Where did you get that? From your handwriting in our filing cabinet. The cabinet you thought was locked. Dana backed toward the kitchen door. Henry, let me explain. Explain what? That you were planning to have me killed? That you and Nate were going to steal everything I own and then make me disappear? It wasn't supposed to happen like that. How was it supposed to happen? Dana was crying now, but Henry didn't feel any sympathy. The tears looked fake, calculated. Nate said you'd be better off not knowing, that it would be easier for everyone. Easier to murder me, you mean? Not murder, an accident. You work with dangerous equipment. Accidents happen. Henry felt cold rage settle over him. His wife of 23 years had been planning to have him killed for insurance money and asset transfers. Who else knows about this? He asked. Nobody. Just me and Nate. What about Thomas Kellerman? He thinks you're already dead. Nate told him you died in a car accident last week. Henry stared at her. What? That's why I had to come back. Kellerman filed insurance claims and death certificates. If you show up alive, we're all going to prison. The pieces fell into place. Dana hadn't come back to convince him to run away with her. She'd come back to finish what she and Nate had started. Henry looked around the kitchen. Dana was standing near the knife block. Her eyes kept flicking toward it. Dana, put your hands where I can see them. Henry, please. We can still fix this. How? If you really did die in an accident, nobody would ask questions. The insurance money would pay off all the debts. I could start over somewhere else. Dana reached for the knife block. Henry was faster. He grabbed her wrist and twisted until she cried out and dropped her hand. Sit down, he said. Dana sat down hard in the kitchen chair. You're hurting me. You were going to kill me. I was protecting both of us. Henry pulled out his phone and called 911. 911. What's your emergency? I need to report an attempted murder. My wife just tried to kill me. Dana lunged for the phone, but Henry was ready for her. He caught her arm and held her while the dispatcher asked for details. My name is Henry Kavanaugh. My wife Dana has been planning to murder me for insurance money. She just confessed and tried to attack me with a knife. Sir, are you in immediate danger? Henry looked at Dana, who was sobbing and struggling to get free. Not anymore. But I need police here right away. Units are on the way. Stay on the line with me. Henry held Dana's arm and waited for the police to arrive. She kept crying and trying to explain, but he wasn't listening anymore. The police arrived 8 minutes later. They found Henry holding his wife in the kitchen while she sobbed and begged for forgiveness. The lead officer was Detective Sarah Mills, someone Henry had known since high school. Henry, what's going on here? Henry handed her his phone, which had been recording the entire conversation. My wife just confessed to planning my murder. She's been working with a man named Nate Risdale to steal my assets and fake my death. Detective Mills listened to the recording while her partner took Dana's statement. Dana's story kept changing. First, she denied everything. Then she claimed Henry was abusive and she was defending herself. Finally, she accused Henry of being the mastermind behind Nate's fraud scheme. She's lying, Henry said calmly. I have evidence. Henry called June, who arrived 20 minutes later with boxes of documents, photographs, and financial records. She spread them across the kitchen table while Detective Mills and her partner reviewed everything. This is incredibly thorough, Detective Mills said. How long have you been investigating this? 3 weeks, June replied. Ever since I saw Dana with Nate Risdale at the Ocean View Hotel. Detective Mills looked at Dana, who had stopped crying and was now sitting silently in handcuffs. Mrs. Kavanaugh, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. Do you understand these rights? Dana nodded. Do you wish to have an attorney present? I want to call Thomas Kellerman. Detective Mills and her partner exchanged glances. Thomas Kellerman is currently being questioned by federal agents in connection with the Nate Risdale investigation. You might want to consider a different attorney. Dana's face went white. In the meantime, Detective Mills continued, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and identity theft. As they led Dana away, she turned back to Henry one last time. This isn't over, she said quietly. You think you've won, but you have no idea what you've done. Henry watched the police car disappear down the street. June stood beside him on the front porch. How do you feel? She asked. Henry thought about it. Empty, relieved. Angry. He paused. Free. What happens now? Now we wait for the lawyers to sort everything out, and I try to figure out how to rebuild my life. June nodded. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Did I? Sometimes I wonder if I should have just walked away, filed for divorce, and started over somewhere else. She would have destroyed you, June said firmly. If you hadn't stopped her, you'd be dead right now. Or in prison for crimes you didn't commit. Henry knew she was right, but it didn't make him feel any better about the woman he'd loved turning into someone he didn't recognize. Over the next few weeks, the full scope of Dana and Nate's operation became clear. They'd stolen nearly $4 million from investors, banks, and private individuals. Dana had been the inside person at Coastal Properties, identifying targets and providing access to financial information. The fake death certificate was just the beginning. They'd planned to stage Henry's accident using his own tow truck, making it look like a hydraulic failure had crushed him while he was working under a car. Dana would have collected life insurance money and inherited all of Henry's assets, which she'd already transferred to accounts only she could access. Nate Risdale was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Thomas Kellerman lost his law license and got 5 years for conspiracy and money laundering. Dana's trial was more complicated. Her lawyer argued that she was a victim of Nate's manipulation, that she'd been coerced into participating in the fraud scheme. The jury didn't buy it. Henry testified about the forged signatures, the stolen money, and the planned murder. He played the recording of Dana's confession for the court. When he was finished, Dana's lawyer had no questions. Dana got 12 years. Henry attended the sentencing hearing. When the judge read the verdict, Dana turned and looked at him across the courtroom. Her eyes were cold, calculating. Even now, even after everything, she was still trying to figure out how to beat him. Henry met her gaze and didn't look away. After a moment, Dana turned back to face the judge. It was the last time he ever saw her. 6 months later, Henry sold the house and moved to a smaller place closer to the water. He kept the locksmith business, but hired an employee so he could take time off when he wanted to. June got a job at a bigger newspaper in Seattle, covering white-collar crime. She said Henry's case had inspired her to specialize in financial fraud investigations. You saved my life, Henry told her the day before she moved. You saved your own life. I just helped you see what was right in front of you. Henry thought about that often in the months that followed. How long had Dana been planning to destroy him? How many signs had he missed? How many other people were living with spouses who were secretly planning their destruction? He never remarried. He dated occasionally, but he couldn't bring himself to trust anyone completely ever again. The betrayal had changed something fundamental in him, made him more careful, more observant. Sometimes people asked him if he regretted turning Dana in, if he wished he'd handled things differently. The answer was always no. Dana had made her choices. She'd chosen Nate over their marriage. She'd chosen money over love. She'd chosen murder over divorce. Henry had simply chosen to survive. 1 year after the trial, Henry received a letter from Dana in prison. He almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of him. The letter was short. Henry, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not for getting caught, but for what I became. You deserved better. I used to love you. I think I forgot how to love anything except money and the idea of being someone else. I hope you find happiness, real happiness, not the fake kind I was chasing. Dana. Henry read the letter twice, then burned it in his fireplace. He watched the paper curl and blacken until nothing remained but ash. Some apologies came too late. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. Some marriages couldn't be saved. But some people could save themselves if they were smart enough and strong enough to see the truth when it was right in front of them. Henry had seen the truth. He'd acted on it. He'd survived. That had to be enough. 2 years after Dana's conviction, Henry was closing up the shop when his phone rang. It was Detective Mills. "Henry, I thought you should know. Dana Kavanaugh was found dead in her cell this morning." Henry set down the keys he'd been organizing. "What happened?" "Apparent suicide. She left a note, but it was mostly rambling about how she couldn't live with what she'd done." Henry was quiet for a moment. "Did she mention me?" "No. The note was addressed to her cellmate. Something about wanting to be free." After Detective Mills hung up, Henry sat in his empty shop and thought about the woman Dana had been when they first met. Young, ambitious, full of dreams about the life they'd build together. Somewhere along the way, those dreams had turned into schemes. Love had turned into greed. Marriage had turned into a business transaction. Henry felt sad for the woman Dana had been, but he couldn't bring himself to mourn the woman she'd become. He locked up the shop and drove home to his small house by the water. He made dinner for one and ate it while watching the sunset over the ocean. The life he'd built wasn't the one he'd planned. It was smaller, quieter, lonelier, but it was his. He'd earned it by refusing to be a victim, by fighting back when someone tried to destroy him. Henry raised his beer to the sunset and spoke quietly to the empty room. "You wanted change. You got it.